Joining me now to discuss that July incident and the dynamics around protecting the President of the United States is Maggie Haberman. She is a White House correspondent at the New York Times and the co-author of Regime Change Inside the Imperial Presidency of Donald Trump. I think certainly the best-selling nonfiction book of the year. And if you haven't picked it up yet, what are you waiting for? Hi.
Hi.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Everybody's talked so much about this story, and I was desperate to try to find a different way to do it. But what do we still not know about this incident that is on your mind, that is bothering you?
Well, you definitely found a different way to do it. I was amazed at how quickly you got back to the desk.
Thank you so much.
No, well done. Look, in all seriousness, and it is a serious thing, there's a lot we don't know. We don't know. We reported about our understanding of the nature of the threat and what they were tracking, and there were multiple threat streams, which is often what happens. But we still don't know exactly what the conversation was, exactly when they learned of it, who precisely came up with this plan. Our understanding and our reporting at the Times is that it was primarily driven by Dan Kane, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, but not exclusively. The Secret Service really follows his lead in this administration on something like this. The Secret Service is also run now by Trump's former detail head from his 4 years out of office. Mm-hmm. There is a very, very close relationship there.
Am I right that I saw a report that said the CIA didn't have confidence in the severity of the threat?
That doesn't match our reporting. The Washington Post had that reporting. That is not our understanding from what was being said at the time.
You've covered Trump for so long, just like Katie was here earlier, and I will say you've been here twice. She's been here once. So, Katie, you could do the Maggie Haberman thing, come back on the show.
She went on the bike, which I would not have done, and helmetless, no less. But I digress. Continue. Yeah.
Tell us about the people that he brought with him in the catering truck to the plane, and why them and not all these other folks like Marco Rubio or Stephen Miller or Caroline Leavitt?
Again, well, Caroline Leavitt, by the way, wasn't on this trip. It's actually important. There's like a huge internet rumor that she was there, and that's why she's leaving. She was not on the trip. So just for anybody who's still asking about that, it was Stephen Chung who was the press person there.
Got it.
But that is actually a question we still don't have answers to as to how he picked. I can guess why Natalie Harp and Walt Nauta and Dan Scavino were with him. There may have been others. Those are the ones we know about. Pete Hegseth, I believe, was there because this was a military operation primarily, and he was on a military jet, so that doesn't surprise me.
But he didn't go sort of the sneaky route. He went up the steps.
Right, which seems to have been part of the ruse, though, and the deception. But Natalie Harp, because she is sort of his binky, for lack of a better way of putting it, a comfort blanket. Walt Nauta is something similar. You know, he also always carries that brown leather briefcase that became very familiar in Term 1. It had things like Tic Tacs and hairspray and all kinds of stuff. And Dan Scavino, because he's one of Trump's closest aides and has been with Trump for 30 some odd years, first as a caddy at his Westchester golf course and then into the White House and in the campaign. And Scavino and Natalie Harp both have some access to / control over his social media. So there could have been a reason for that as well. But again, we don't know because we are left guessing because there has been so little information about this. Now, I understand that there are stuff that they can't tell, that the federal government cannot talk about in terms of protecting a president, threats on his life. The Secret Service has already said this president is facing, a ton of threats. All of their protectees are. But there is the counterbalance of the public's right to know and need to know about where a president is.
How do you interpret Stephen Miller being left behind? To me, when I think Stephen Miller, I think this is the guy, at least on a policy level, that is sort of locked at the hip with the president. And when I heard they left Stephen Miller back on the plane, I don't know, my ears perked up.
I don't know what to make of it. It could have been that there was better internet reception on the other plane. It could have been that there was a more comfortable seat. I have no idea. I mean, again, I'm loath to speculate on any of the why. I assume that we will at some point learn more, and we are still attempting to report on this, but we don't know.
I do think in the seriousness of this, it's important to point out the context. Bill Clinton switched planes in the spring of 2000 when he was flying to from India to Pakistan. Mm-hmm. One of the reporters covering that trip, Susan Page, knew about it ahead of time because the Clinton administration told her. I guess the point is here, what happened is not how these incidents are normally dealt with. Is that the crux of it?
Correct. There are ways to have handled this for the administration. As best as we can tell from our reporting, this was a scramble. There were various reasons why they were using a decoy plane. Decoy planes have been used, as you said. I don't actually think we know how often they are used. They certainly were used by the Trump team in 2024. And I think, Jacob, part of the thing people need to understand here is there is this sort of bunker mindset, understandably. I'm not saying that with condemnation. This is a team that has felt, the Trump team, under siege throughout the whole campaign. Attempts on his life, prosecutions, et cetera, it all became one big thing for them. He is under attack from Iran. He is not the only one. He obviously pulled, other members of his current administration are. His previous administration, he pulled detail from that security from them, which is a different story. But those are legit. So I understand this all happened fast, but it speaks to the degree to which they don't trust the media. They don't see having to tell the media things as a priority at all, or public disclosure. And I can go back on a number of things. The East Wing suddenly disappearing, and them never briefing the public. And in some cases thinking they had already, even though they all knew. So yes, they could have, even if they weren't going to take a pool reporter with them on the plane, although that has been done before, the White House pool could have figured that out on their own. This White House has taken control of that. So that's now their responsibility. And I think they may not have wanted to deal with that. Let's say they didn't take a reporter with them, which, I can have some issues with. They still could have briefed the traveling press pool when they got to Ankara airport. They could have said, this is off the record. You have to agree to this if you are going to continue traveling with us. This cannot be published until we land. Instead, there was this huge deception, and then the president keeps it going while he's gaggling with reporters on the bridge plane.
Basically saying, by the way, but teasing them about, we're all in this together.
Right, we're all in this together. If I go, you go.
Yeah.
And, that would not have been true in that case. I do want to make the point that the Air Force One, the older fleet that the reporters were on, that much of the cabinet was on, or the two cabinet members were on, is actually the safer plane as far as
other than the Qatari jet, if you put it up against the Qatari jet.
Well, yes, and I think if you put it up against many of the jets in this fleet, it's very old. That's the main issue. It doesn't mean it has not had security upgrades, but there are many problems with how this went down.
No better person to talk to about this. Truly, like I said, bananas.